So when I think about trust-based philanthropy right now, the concept, the value that comes to me is, who are we accountable to? And trust-based philanthropy argues that our accountability really is with the communities, the specific, whether they're geographic and regional, whether they're issue-based or identity-based, communities that we are meant to serve. That is what we're accountable to and who we're accountable to, not necessarily to the bank accounts or to the endowment. And when people ask me, so what is trust-based philanthropy and what isn't it? I think there are a lot of ways to think about what it means to be accountable to the communities that we serve. Some other ways I've heard it described are an equity-based philanthropy, a grantee-centric philanthropy. So I think essentially trust-based is the notion that our job is to really partner with, listen to, and trust the communities, social movements that we serve. And actually, that's where the phrase trust-based philanthropy comes from. It wasn't baked up in some kind of consultant's lab. It wasn't from an academic source. The Whitman Institute, which is the private foundation that I help run and had decided to spend out its endowment, basically turned to all of our grantee partners and used a tool called a grantee perception report to ask, to get some feedback. What should we do with ourselves? How should we think about supporting you? Because we know that now our horizon is set. We're going to be gone in 10 years. And what our community partners, who we feel deeply accountable to, gave back to us was, look, the way that you operate is just, as a package, just different from how we experience other funders. You act as listeners and partners and collaborators, and you're trying to learn with us as we go, as opposed to maybe behaving as comptrollers or exactors of perfection, or judges about the work. It just feels like you're in it with us. I think that's what they would often say. It just feels like you're in it with us. You care about the work as much as we do. You care about the community as much as we do. You want to know what works. And there are not a lot of ways that we have to perform for you. That's what they told us as a funder. We don't feel like we have to perform for you. We can come to you and say, we're having we're going to have a hard time meeting payroll. We're having a difficult leadership transition. I think that's one of the markers to me of whether or not a relationship actually has any trust in it, is that folks are honest and vulnerable, both on the folks receiving the funds and also the funders themselves. So we were vulnerable to our partners. We said, we are not sure what to do with our last 10 years. We think we have some ideas, but we'd really love to get your insights and leadership. So I think that, that's a set of approaches, it's a set of values, but the concept of accountability feels like a big one in this era that we live in. So that's where even the phrase comes from. And then I also think about a philanthropy that is very self-conscious of the limitations of philanthropy. So Shadi, if you could show that slide from the Open Road Alliance. A few years back, the Open Road Alliance did a study of, I think it was around 300 nonprofits globally. And they asked, what are obstacles to you actually achieving the things that you want to achieve? And a very disheartening percentage, almost half, 46% of the obstacles that nonprofits felt like they faced and had a hard time surmounting actually came from funders, right? So not COVID type pandemics, not sort of these unpredictabilities of politics and policy, but literally funders deciding they're going to change course all of a sudden, delays in disbursement of funds, inflexibility about rubrics and paperwork, and just sort of different elements that sort of should show us and demonstrate to us that for all of our good intentions as funders and supporters of social change work, we can often, half the time, get in the way. So I think of a trust-based philanthropy as one that is very conscious and self-conscious of the ways that we can perpetuate power imbalances, racial inequities, hoarding and control versus collaboration and sharing. So, the slide right before, I'll just end on this. I think in our sector, we can suffer from not actually embodying the values or the vision that, or the missions that we have written on our websites and on our walls and in our minds. You know, we have these intentions. We want to, you know, work against climate change. We want to support democracy. We want to make sure that everyone, you know, big to small, has what they need to thrive. And so we state these values, but in the actual doing of philanthropy, we can so easily replicate the, you know, racial inequities, power imbalances, and basically the not be willing to give up or collaborate or listen or take feedback. So I think trust-based philanthropy is an invitation to demonstrate our accountability to the people we are serving by actually embodying the values that we say that we have.